You saved for years. You ditched the subscriptions. You downsized your whole life. You finally bought your tiny house. And 6 months later, you're forced to move it. Or worse, you can't legally live in it at all. This is happening to thousands of tiny house owners right now in 2026, and almost nobody is talking about the real reason why. It's not the build quality. It's not the layout. It's not the loft. It's not even the cost. At least not in the way you think. It's a single mistake made before people ever break ground. And it's so common, so quietly devastating, that I've seen it kill people's tiny house dreams entirely. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly what it is, how to avoid it, and the exact steps to make sure your tiny house journey doesn't end in regret. Stay with me, because the twist in this story might actually shock you. Before we dive in, if you're serious about tiny house living or you're in the research phase right now, smash that subscribe button and hit the notification bell. I drop honest, no fluff content every week for people who want to build smart, not just build fast. Now let's get into it. Let's be real. The tiny house aesthetic is intoxicating. Clean lines, clever storage, that sleeping loft with the fairy lights, the idea of living with less and feeling more free. And in 2026, the movement has never been bigger. Traditional housing prices have climbed past $400,000 for the average American home. Meanwhile, a well-built tiny house averages around $60,000 to $80,000 for a professional build. The math looks amazing on paper. And the lifestyle? People are buying into it hard. Digital nomads, young couples, retirees, parents building backyard units for their kids. The tiny house movement has truly gone mainstream. But here's what those gorgeous Instagram posts and Netflix specials don't show you. The part where people move in and then realize the most critical thing they forgot. And it happens at a rate that would genuinely alarm you. So would I ask the biggest mistake? Let me set it up properly, because it's not just one thing. It's one category of mistake that branches into 3 painful subproblems. And if you get this wrong, everything else, the design, the build, the budget becomes irrelevant. The biggest tiny house mistake nobody talks about is this. People fall in love with the house before they figure out where they're legally allowed to put it. I know, it sounds almost too simple, but this is the #1 reason tiny house projects fail, stall, or turn into financial nightmares. And the data backs it up completely. Zoning is literally described as the #1 reason tiny home projects face delays or cancellations by housing experts in 2026. Not the build, not the budget, the land. Here's why it's more complicated than most people expect. Problem #1. The law is a patchwork quilt. In 2026, the legal landscape for tiny homes is what experts are calling a patchwork of local ordinances, building codes, and state-level mandates. Even in states where tiny houses are technically legal, the rules vary wildly from one city to the next, even from one county to the next. Here's a real example. Colorado Springs is clear tiny house on wheels regulations, but El Paso County, which literally surrounds Colorado Springs, has much more relaxed requirements. Same region, completely different rules. Texas is considered one of the most tiny house-friendly states in the country. Many rural Texas counties have almost zero zoning enforcement, but Austin, San Antonio, and other cities have their own, stricter codes on top of state law. Florida. In 2026, the Florida Senate unanimously passed legislation easing the path for backyard, tiny homes, and ADUs. Cities like Orlando and Miami are actively updating their codes. So Florida is getting better, but it's not there yet everywhere. Virginia just passed a new law in April 2026, making it easier to build a tiny house in your backyard. But it doesn't take effect until next year. If you build today expecting that law to protect you, you could be caught out. This is why a 2-hour visit to your local zoning office before you buy anything can save you months of regret. Months, or years, or your entire investment. Problem #2, tiny houses on wheels versus permanent structures. 2 completely different legal worlds. This is where most first-timers get blindsided. There are essentially 2 types of tiny houses. A tiny house on wheels, THOW, and a foundation-built tiny house, or ADU, accessory dwelling unit. And the law treats them very differently. A tiny house on wheels is typically classified as a recreational vehicle in many jurisdictions, not as a permanent dwelling. That means even if you park it on land you own, you may not legally be allowed to live in it full time. Counties often require things like utility hookups, septic approval, road access, and even a permanent address before you can occupy a tiny house. And if your tiny house on wheels doesn't meet those requirements, you could be ordered to move it. A foundation-built tiny house, or ADU, on the other hand, might fall under minimum square footage codes. Some areas still require a minimum of 600 to 800 square feet for a primary residence. That immediately rules out most tiny homes under Appendix Q of the International Residential Code. So here's the trap. You spend $70,000 building your dream tiny house on wheels. You park it on your cousin's land. You start living in it. And 3 months in, a county official shows up and tells you that you're in violation of local ordinances. Suddenly, you have two choices: pay to move the house, or find land fast that will legally accommodate you. This is not a hypothetical. This is happening right now in 2026. Problem number 3. Finding legal land is much harder than it looks. Even when people know the zoning rules, finding legal, affordable land near cities remains genuinely difficult. Rural land can be cheap, sometimes under $10,000, but it's far from jobs, hospitals, and everything else that makes daily life work. Urban areas tend to be the most restrictive for tiny homes. Metropolitan land can exceed $100,000, and zoning codes are stricter. The irony is brutal. The areas where people most want to live tiny are often the areas with the most legal barriers. Tiny house communities, RV parks, and intentional communities offer an alternative, but they come with lot rental fees. We're talking $200 to $600 per month on average, which adds $24,000 to $72,000 over a 10-year period to your cost of living. Suddenly, the affordable tiny house doesn't look quite so affordable anymore. Now let's talk about what happens when the land and zoning mistake leads to, because it always leads to financial consequences people didn't anticipate. The structure is only part of the budget illusion. In 2026, experts are unanimous on this. The biggest financial mistake people make is assuming the tiny house price is the full project price. It's not even close. Hidden costs in 2026 include building permits, $500 to $3,000. Utility hookups, $2,000 all the way up to $35,000 in rural areas. Septic installation, driveway access and grading. Insulation upgrades, custom cabinetry, land purchase or leasing. Experts recommend budgeting an extra 15 to 20% on top of your build cost for these hidden surprises. On a $70,000 build, that's an extra $10,500 to $14,000 you need to have ready. And over a full 10-year period, total tiny house ownership costs, including land or lot rent, utility connections, insurance, property taxes, and maintenance, can range from $60,000 all the way to $300,000, depending on your choices and location. Still cheaper than traditional home ownership in most scenarios, but a far cry from the "I'm going to live for almost free" fantasy that social media sells. The financing nightmare. Here's one that really catches people off guard. Most banks won't give you a standard mortgage for a tiny house. A tiny house on wheels is classified as personal property in most states, not real estate. That means number 30-year mortgage. You're looking at personal loans with shorter terms and higher interest rates, or RV loans if your tiny house carries ANSI, a 119.5 certification. And the difference is staggering. On a $90,000 purchase, the gap between a 15-year RV loan at 8% and a 7-year personal loan at 14% can mean paying over $65,000 more in total interest. That's a $65,000 penalty for not knowing this before you bought. The lesson? If you're buying a tiny house on wheels, certification matters massively, not just for building quality, but for your ability to finance it affordably and sell it later at a fair price. Resale value. The uncomfortable truth. Nobody wants to hear this, but it needs to be said. Tiny houses, especially those on wheels placed on rented or temporary land, typically depreciate. They lose value faster and take longer to sell. Here's why. Limited financing options mean fewer buyers. Customization that fits your lifestyle may not appeal to anyone else. An unclear legal status in some regions further shrinks the buyer pool. The one exception: tiny homes on owned land. A tiny house placed on land you actually own benefits from land appreciation. The land goes up in value. The structure stays roughly flat or declines. So in many cases, buyers end up paying for the land first and the structure second. The takeaway from the resale data in 2026 is clear. Tiny homes rarely make sense as appreciation-focused investments. They make sense for lifestyle, for lower monthly costs, for flexibility, but not typically as a wealth-building asset in the traditional sense. Okay, now that we've gone through the full picture of what goes wrong, let's talk about what going right actually looks like. Because this mistake is 100% avoidable if you follow the right sequence. Here is the exact order of operations you should follow before committing a single dollar to a tiny house build or purchase. Step 1. Research your jurisdiction first, before you fall in love with any house. Identify exactly where you want to live. Then contact the local planning or zoning department directly and ask about ADU, accessory dwelling unit, regulations, tiny house on wheels parking rules, minimum square footage requirements for primary residences, whether the county has adopted Appendix Q of the International Residential Code. Don't just look things up online. Call or visit in person. Rules change, websites lag behind, and a direct conversation with a zoning official can give you clarity that no website can. One tip: use the words accessory dwelling unit or secondary suite rather than tiny home. Many older zoning codes don't reference tiny homes directly, but do address ADUs. Step 2. Secure the land or confirm the location before you build. Find your land before you build your house. Not after, not at the same time. Before. If you're buying land, confirm it allows your type of tiny home. If you're renting a lot in a community or RV park, get the agreement in writing, understand what's included, and calculate that lot rent into your total 10-year cost. And if someone in your family is offering you space on their property, amazing, but still check the local zoning. What's allowed on their land may not include a full-time dwelling. Step 3. Understand your true all-in budget. Build your real budget using this framework. Tiny house cost, build or purchase your base number. Add 15 to 20% for hidden and unexpected costs. Add land costs or monthly lot rent for 10 years. Add utility connection costs, anywhere from $2,000 to $35,000. Add permits, $500 to $3,000. Add insurance, $500 to $1,500 per year. Add ongoing maintenance reserves. When you run those numbers honestly, you'll have a real picture of what tiny living actually costs, and you can decide if it makes sense for your situation. Step 4. Choose the right type of tiny house for your legal situation. Once you know the land and zoning rules in your area, choose your build type accordingly. If your jurisdiction allows foundation built homes under 400 square feet, go ADU or permanent tiny home. Better financing, better resale, better legal protection. If you need mobility or your land situation is flexible, go tiny house on wheels. But make sure it carries ANSI and 119.5 certification so you can access RV financing and attract future buyers. If your jurisdiction is restrictive, consider advocating for change, relocating to a more tiny-friendly area, or waiting for new legislation, which is moving fast in many states right now. Step 5. Design for real life, not Instagram. This is a bonus step, but it matters. Design for how you actually live, not how you want to look on social media. In 2026, ground floor bedrooms are increasingly preferred over sleeping lofts by full-time tiny house residents for practical, everyday reasons. The loft looks amazing in photos. Climbing a ladder at 2 a.m. when you need the bathroom? Less amazing. Prioritize natural light. Open-plan layouts that don't account for window placement and light-colored finishes can end up feeling darker and more cramped than a well-designed divided space. Tiny house design experts emphasize prioritizing window area and interior reflectivity above everything else. And don't undersize your bathroom. It's the most underestimated design decision in tiny homes, and the one most people regret. Here's what I wanted to take away from this video. Tiny house living in 2026 is genuinely a viable, fulfilling, and in many cases financially smart choice. The movement is maturing. Laws are improving. Virginia, Florida, and other states are actively making it easier. The design options are better than ever. And for the right person in the right situation, it absolutely works. But the people who thrive in tiny homes are not the ones who fell in love with a floor plan first. They're the ones who did the unsexy work, the zoning calls, the budget spreadsheets, the land research, before they committed a single dollar. The mistake nobody talks about isn't a design flaw or a budget overrun. It's skipping the foundation, the legal, financial, and logistical foundation, before building the physical one. Do that work first. Do it thoroughly. And then build your tiny house with confidence. If this video helped you see tiny house living more clearly, whether it made you more excited or more cautious, either reaction is a win, because you're making an informed decision instead of an expensive mistake. Drop a comment below. Are you currently in a research phase, already living tiny, or have you experienced one of these mistakes yourself? I read every single comment. And if you want to go deeper, I've got a full video breaking down tiny house costs in 2026 with real numbers, and another on how to find tiny house-friendly land in your state. Links are in the description. Hit that like button if this brought you value. It genuinely helps more people find this content. And I'll see you in the next one.